Hello there. So I'm just going to show you some quick stuff I've been doing with the influence map system actor thingy in Unreal Engine. So here's an example scene I threw together for testing. A little bit bigger. So there's an influence map actor, and that has an influence map component on it. So you can have any number of influence map components. The influence map actor is the thing that contains the cells. So I'll just show you that. I have to toggle something on the so it actually causes an event for the thing to draw. It's all very complicated. So what we're seeing is, so here's a test actor called a proxy. So the proxy is the thing that's going to be on your characters or your objects, and those are the things that add influence to the influence map cells. So the cells have just the position, and then the influence map component has the layer on top of the actor. Well, that sounds really complicated. You'll have a nice interface for all of this stuff once I've finished. But the idea is that the proxy has an influence value that's written into the influence map data. So if I go on here, choose the influence map, you can, right now it regenerates it because there's no decent hook for that. But if I show you the values for those, you can see the influence value is changing. It's normalized between 0 and 1 right now. So the idea here is that you'll have a proxy that establishes itself, it registers itself with an influence map value. So an influence map actor will have a bunch of influence map layers which are made of components, and you'll be able to render a proxy into a given layer. So for instance, the dead bodies layer, say, and this proxy will render itself in and say where this proxy is, and it might be that, I'll just show you a quick tweak of that. Obviously a lot of this stuff is just me testing things right now. So you can change the radius of how much influence is being used and that kind of thing. Eventually I'll have propagation through the different layers. Right now I'm not really doing that because it's I need to optimize the debug drawing and all that other kind of stuff first. But you can see that this actual propagation of influence works all right. It's visualized properly, although the debugger rendering is not the fastest in the world right now, so I'll have to fix that. I can go to the influence map again and change the cell size. So that's a really small cell size. Gets a little bit silly with the whole like text drawing and stuff, but again it works just the same. You can choose the influence map proxy, the influence map, and change the scale of that again. The idea being that different influence maps will have different types of data in, and they'll propagate at different rates and those kind of things. So the actual influence map itself is kind of like a static structure that's just all of these nav mesh cells. If I draw you the nav mesh, and let's just get rid of the debug text. I'll have to click on that guy and regenerate, because currently the text doesn't undo itself for some mad reason. Yeah, so you can see that the nav mesh is rasterized out into nav mesh cell, into 3 influence map cells. Currently I can't find the hook to actually regenerate it, so I have to keep toggling this thing, but I will fix that before it's finished. So the proxies are the things that will cause influence to be propagated into the influence map. And they'll have a bunch of different values for different types of things. Like I say, it could be a dead body layer, it could be used things for different types of strategic decisions. You might have an influence maps proxy that adds threat based on the last seen position. So imagine you've seen a guy at the position of this actor, and you say, okay, so anything in this cell potentially has a grenade in it, or it could be threatening. So when you're doing a nav mesh path through this area, you'll be able to look at the influence value and start being alerted, say, because there's a dead body nearby, or because there's a potential threat that's been seen recently, that kind of thing. So influence has a lot of different uses in terms of sort of world space positional values on the nav mesh. And that's really what I'm looking for, is ways of propagating value inside the nav mesh, but in a sort of granular way. Now, the trade-off obviously is that there's a fair amount of different calculation going on here. So there is a trade-off between sort of cell size and proximity and those kind of things. So obviously small cell values. This is all regenerated on the fly, by the way, from the nav mesh as it's being generated over time. It means that you can trade off essentially influence map resolution for speed. So obviously it's going to be faster updating all of these values because there are fewer of them. So technically it all kind of works a little bit faster, but a lot of this stuff is just overhead for debug rendering and just shouldn't actually have a significant impact in game. But cell size can obviously do that. So you obviously choose that yourself. But what else is there? Well, so the different layers can have different values in. I've not quite figured out a way of making the influence map layers, which are these components, of making those kind of specific types yet, but I will figure that one out. And what you get essentially is, if you look at this array, when I toggle the generation, it regenerates the influence map data from the nav mesh. So I can theoretically, that's changing the nav mesh, and I then go back to my influence map. This will happen automatically once I've figured out how to hook it, and it'll just regenerate the influence map from there. So it'll all be dynamic and work as you would expect. Yeah, so it's working, just not quite as smoothly as I want yet. Still a few things that need fixing, but renders itself in debug properly now. It propagates influence. I'm going to do the influence map propagation thing where it actually propagates from cell to cell in a sort of double buffered manner. The one downside to this is all based off stuff from Dishonored 2, Laurent and his friend, but I can't remember his name, constantly. They did a GDC presentation this year on how the Dishonored 2 influence map stuff works for various different things. Right now this is just doing a simple distance propagation kind of thing, so the influence is based on distance from the object. But you can do different propagation values and different ways of actually sort of calculating the influence for different actors. So that should be it. That should be a kind of a useful addition to Unreal Engine at least, and we'll see how it goes, I suppose. It's been an interesting ride trying to get the code working, and I've still got a bunch of hooks to find out, but there you go. So thanks for watching. I shall catch you on the next one.